Welcome back for part 2 of me restoring this beautiful Golf Mark II. In today's video, I will be trying to lift the car up into the rotisserie. When I have accomplished that, I will take a look at the undercarriage of the car to see if there's any serious damage. But before that, there's actually still a tank in this car and it's pretty much half full. So we can't just go around and flip the car without all of the gasoline spilling over the floor. As I showed you in the previous video, we have some of these L pieces that needs to go into the car frame to connect it to the rotisserie. And to connect the L pieces to the rotisserie, we need this little joint. This joint slips onto the rotisserie boom, where it is used to position the L pieces according to the frame's design. Now to lock everything in place, we have these holes that line up, and then I went out and purchased some bolts that can be slid right through. And to prevent these bolts from falling out, I also purchased some ring splits that I will be placing on the bolt. But before I can do that, I just need to drill a couple of holes in these. Now that I have drilled all of the holes, the next step is to take off the threads at the belt sander. Just like that, I have a bolt that is locked by a split ring. As you can see, there's a lot of wiggle room and that just makes it much easier to assemble. I will start mounting the front because it's a bit high off the ground and I would like to get it level before I turn it around so it will be more stable. Now the front is almost done, I just need to bolt these L pieces directly to the chassis. And now I just have to do it all over again for the back end. Let's go! The most difficult part of this process is gonna be bolting this L piece directly to the chassis. When it's done, I can raise it into the air, drop the fuel tank, which is situated right here in the back, and then I guess I'll be able to flip it around. And I probably have to clean up the roof before, or else these taillights are toast. Now that I have lowered the front, I can actually get to what I was doing before. You don't really have that much space, so it's gonna be quite exciting. I just wanted to show you how inaccessible this really is. You have to go under the exhaust and right up in that hole. That's where you have to put the bolts in. So that also means I can't use the spanners, at least on the bottom, and I will need a top. And luckily for me, I have this nice little box with a 19mm socket. And now I'm ready to tighten the bolts. That was definitely a challenge, but now it is secured and I've tightened all of the bolts firmly. But I have accidentally forgotten to make a flat spot or a disc for this hydraulic jack. And when I use the jack, the top part of the piston goes into this ring, so I have to do something similar on the other side. I'll just be shortening these pieces so they are appropriate for my needs. I have now installed this extra jacking point right here, and technically I should be able to lift the car off the ground. Now look at this. It's actually off the floor. I think that's pretty great. Now let's take a look at the undercarriage. Well, before that, I really want to try and turn it a bit. Oh. It does work pretty great. I'm just turning really slowly here. I'm not gonna turn it any further because the tank, as I said before, is still half full. But this is quite great, it turns pretty easily. I've situated myself on the floor, and as you can see, the undercarriage isn't too bad. There are some spots that maybe need a bit of fixing right here in the front, but this here is the floor in the passenger side, and it's pretty easy to switch out. You can actually buy a whole piece of flooring and just remove it around the edges and weld the new one in. The thing that is my biggest concern right at the moment is the fuel tank. As you can see, it's mounted with these metal strappings. It shouldn't be too difficult. There are just some bolts in each end. And I really have to be careful because this tank is quite difficult to get a hold of. I would really be disappointed in myself if I dropped it on the floor. To have even better access to the tank, I'll just be removing the wheels and suspension. That was tough. To remove the suspension and the tank, there are a lot of wires, cables and hoses that I have to remove first. To begin with, I will try to remove the handbrake cables. And just to mention, I don't really have any idea of what I'm doing, but my guess is that I have to remove these bolts and then maybe pull on the handbrake lever to free them and then just pull them out from underneath the car. So I'll just try on tightening these first and let's see how it goes. This looks alright, I think. Now I just have to go underneath the car. I should just be able to pull them out. We are now underneath the car and the cable that runs along here is the handbrake cable. As you can see, it's pretty stiff and it's because behind this rubber there is a metal cable that goes all the way from the handbrake down to the brake drums. Right there. It looks like there is some kind of a hook right here, so I guess I'll just undo that. Okay, that was pretty easy. From what I've heard, I just have to tug on this cable and it should come out. Yeah, so it's this cable right here. Oh, that sounds promising. I guess that's it. The hook is already undone right here. I guess I just have to pull it out. And just like that, I got the second one out. I think the right move would be to remove this bolt right here. That should lower these wheel hubs down. After I have removed this bolt, I should be able to remove the bolt that holds the pivot, which is right in here. I don't know if this is from the factory or this is just some quick fix from the previous owner, but it looks like this nut has been welded on. Yeah, actually, I don't think this is standard. Okay, now that it's loose, I'm ready to undo these bolts and these bushings right here. I think I'm gonna have to cut it off with the angle grinder. That right there was pretty tough, but I got it out at last. We thought about sandblasting this part and reusing it, but I don't really think that's gonna be a possibility. Maybe Underneath all of this rust, there's still some good metal, but I doubt it. Just look at what came out of it. All of this rust. I'm pretty sure the next step right now is to disconnect all of the fuel lines.
Og stop.
Jeg tror, jeg har taget alt af. Alright guys, the tank has now been dropped. I did have to call my brother, because this generally is a two-man job. And I didn't want to get hurt or hurt the tank, because we will be reusing at least the plastic itself. We will probably get a new fuel pump. Some of these lines may be replaced, but if we can't get them anywhere, we will just have to reuse them again. I still do need to take off the shocks right here and right there. I just thought it would be easier to take them off when they were horizontal. You have a better look at the undercarriage of the car when it's turned like this. Some of the gas tank straps are also pretty much useless, as you can see. So those also need to be replaced. The exhaust right here has to be removed and thrown away, because we will be making a custom exhaust when the time comes. Now, just for curiosity, I think I would like to turn the car all the way around. It isn't really centered, I just have to move it down to the lowest bolt, so the center of gravity is aligned with the bearings. But it is pretty stable right now, even though I haven't locked it right here. The Golf Mark II has now been turned upside down. This year is pretty crazy for me. I didn't even know I would get this far on this project, even though I haven't really started with anything. I'm not even done taking everything apart, but I thought that it would just sit outside and become a pile of rust. I'm really happy that I took initiative and began the restoration. If you enjoyed today's video and would like to see more of the restoration of this car, you should consider subscribing, liking and writing any suggestions in the comments. See you in the next video.